5 months pregnant, my boyfriend suddenly threw a prenuptial agreement in front of me. The woman voluntarily waives the right to receive a bride price. The marital home is premarital property and has no relation to the woman. Upon the man's death, the property shall revert to his parents. I was so angry that I broke down and went directly to confront them. They threw a sentence at me: if you don't agree, then raise the child yourself. The next day, I scheduled an appointment at the hospital for an abortion. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. Waking up, Neil sent me a message. It wasn't a greeting or concern, but a PDF file. The words prenuptial agreement made me freeze. I opened it to read, and a long list of clauses left me stunned, especially these clauses. The woman voluntarily waives the receipt of the bride price. The marital home is considered premarital property and has no relation to the woman. Upon the man's death, the property shall revert to his parents. I was so angry I almost spat blood. Is this something the man I've been longing for sent me? Furious, I immediately made a phone call. The words "what's wrong with you?" sending this first thing in the morning, were on the tip of my tongue the moment the ringtone sounded. The number you have dialed is busy. Please try again later. Did he just hang up on me? I jumped out of bed, threw on my clothes, called a car, and headed straight to his place. When I arrived at the entrance of his residential complex, I tried calling his number again. Hit 1, hang up 1. I was furious. At that moment, the phone rang. Take a look at the agreement first. Fuck you. I turned right out of the elevator and frantically banged on the door outside his apartment. Neil opened the door. The layout of his floor was complicated. With 4 units per floor, each separated by a small hallway, Neil's family sealed off the small passageway to claim more space. Opened the door. With one hand I frantically pressed the doorbell, while the other pounded fiercely on the iron door. It wasn't until the entire floor was stirred by the commotion that Neil's father came to open the door. It's Annie. Why are you running around while pregnant? He didn't come to open the outer door, nor did he even approach. Instead, he persuaded me through the half-open inner door. Annie, go back quickly, in case you hurt the child. I saw Neil hiding behind his father, not saying a word. I kicked the door. Neil, what do you mean? He remained silent. His father continued to reassure me. Sweetie, you should go back now. I instantly exploded. Neil, did someone cut your vocal cords? Can't you speak? Won't even open the door? What do you all mean by this? His father was about to persuade me. Neil leaned out halfway. Annie, you go back first. You're still pregnant. For the baby's sake, don't get angry. Take a look at the agreement first, and we can talk about anything else over WeChat. Talk over WeChat. I'm right here, and he wants me to chat with him on WeChat from a distance. I frantically pounded on the door, asking him over and over what he meant. The elderly neighbor lady couldn't stand it anymore and came over, patting my shoulder. Neil, let your wife in first. She's pregnant. Neil hadn't even spoken yet when his father started yelling at the grandmother. You old hag, mind your own business. Don't you have anything better to do? I was stunned. The change in attitude was so sudden, I could hardly believe it. Is this still the gentle and considerate Neil family I knew? Neil thought I was frightened. Annie, you're emotionally unstable right now. Let me call you a ride home, and we can talk on WeChat. Okay. Suddenly, I understood. This family, playing dumb to deceive the tiger, thought I was pregnant and the timing was right, so they all revealed their true colors. Neil chased after me for 4 years, treated me well for 4 years, and even everyone around praised him as a good man. Even when it came to the step of discussing marriage, he always considered me first in everything and prioritized me in all matters. In the 4th month of pregnancy, Neil suddenly changed his previous attitude, overturned all the conditions he had promised me, and demanded that I give birth to the child first before considering getting married. At first, I thought it was his parents' idea. After all, the older generation still holds on to the traditional preference for sons over daughters. But then, Neil imposed one condition after another, pressing step by step, and we had a big fight that led to a Cold War. Now I finally understand. At 5 months pregnant, the fetus is already formed. And they think they can manipulate me at will. I took a deep breath. Neil, are you really going to be like this? He's still pretending to be affectionate. Annie, don't get so worked up. It's not good for our child. Our child. That's hilarious. Does he even know it's his child? Now all they want is to use the baby in my belly as leverage against me. Open the door, I said flatly. Neil instinctively pushed the door outward a little. Very good, very good. This is the man I've loved for 4 years. What on earth did I fall in love with? Not opening it. I sneered coldly. Do you still want to get married or not? Neil looked troubled. Annie, if you agree to sign that prenuptial agreement, we can start planning the wedding. Is a wedding all I want? I smiled. What if I refuse? Neil hadn't even spoken when his father shouted, Then you raise the child yourself. The door was slammed shut with a loud bang. I was trembling with anger, my chest so tight I felt like vomiting. But I know now is not the time to be stubborn. I called a car to go home and lay on the sofa for a long time before calming my emotions. Just then, my phone rang. It was my best friend Chloe. "Annie, are you home? I'll be at your place soon. I have some shocking gossip to tell you. It's about Neil." Hearing the word Neil, my nerves instantly jolted awake. Chloe arrived quickly. Before she could drop any bombshells on me, I first told her about what had happened earlier. Goodness. And the property goes to his parents after death. Was he planning to die right after getting married? Chloe shook her head. "Annie, I need to tell you something. Brace yourself." After Neil's little performance, I finally saw through his acting skills. Even if there's some bigger drama next, I wouldn't be surprised. Chloe told me that her boyfriend Otis's company acquired several small businesses. He was parachuted into one of them as a manager, only to find it was Neil's company. Her boyfriend didn't know Neil personally, but he often heard Chloe mentioning him and me, so the name was very familiar to him. At first, he wasn't entirely sure it was my boyfriend Neil. It wasn't until Otis showed Chloe a photo that Chloe confirmed it was him. "Then tell your friend to be careful. That Neil is not a good person," Otis said seriously. Chloe was startled by Otis's expression. "What's wrong? What happened?" Otis told Chloe that during the company team building event, everyone drank too much, and that Neil started speaking without restraint. Otis never drinks alcohol. He pretended to have a few sips but secretly poured the rest out. Neil leaned in close to a few colleagues he was friendly with, lowering his head and speaking in a hushed voice. At that time, Otis was sitting right next to Neil, and he could hear every word clearly. "You all say I'm foolish for fawning over my girlfriend, but I'm not foolish at all. Didn't I manage to get her pregnant? Although her family isn't well off, that makes her easier to control. If you bring home a rich empress, you'll still have to fawn over her after marriage. Isn't that exhausting?" Chloe said indignantly. "Is this even human speech?" I laughed at myself mockingly. I never expected Neil to be so good at pretending. And to such an extent, it's my fault for being too naive, thinking that by pretending to be of average financial means, others wouldn't be with me just because they coveted my family's wealth. I arrogantly believed Neil wasn't materialistic and that his love for me was genuine. In the end, it turns out I just met a more calculating social climber. Chloe stood up for me. "You said he doesn't care about money, doesn't aim high, isn't a social climber. Now it seems he was just tired of groveling and saw marriage as the finish line, so you'd end up groveling for him instead." No, we didn't even make it to marriage. Just after having a child, he couldn't take it anymore. Neil didn't come from a well-off family, and when we were together, I also acted as if my family was just average financially. First, I didn't want him to feel burdened, and second, I was worried about running into a Phoenix man who was after my family's wealth. Now it seems, Neil may not know that my family is well off, but he is still a genuine Phoenix man. It's just in a different form. He needs someone he can easily control, a soft persimmon, and I am that soft persimmon in his eyes, poor, obedient, and pregnant. Just get rid of the father and keep the child. Chloe tossed out the remark, "With your family's conditions, there's nothing to worry about. Men willing to change their last name and play dad could line up from Beijing all the way to Barcelona." I felt frustrated, trying to swallow that murky, foul anger. The next second, a sharp pain suddenly shot through my stomach. My face instantly turned ashen. What's wrong? What's wrong?" Chloe noticed something was off with me. Before I could answer, a warm flow suddenly spread between my thighs. Chloe jumped up immediately. "You're bleeding. We need to get to the hospital right away." She immediately made a call to arrange things and drove me straight to the private hospital with her foot on the gas. After the examination, the doctor informed me that the fetus had stopped developing and I needed to be hospitalized for surgery. My face turned pale, and I was in too much pain to speak. Hearing the doctor say that was like a bolt from the blue, Chloe noticed something was wrong with me and quickly comforted me. "Don't be sad." Tears fell uncontrollably. But I knew I had to stay strong. I instinctively nodded to her, saying I'm not sad would be a lie after all. It was a little life that had been with me for 5 months. Even though his father did something unforgivable, the child is innocent. Even if I'm not with his father, he is still my precious darling. Now, because of his father causing my emotional breakdown, his departure can only be said to be too regrettable. But on second thought, Neil's actions might make the child's departure a good thing. I shared my thoughts with Chloe, and she comforted me. Indeed, there's no need to consider anything like keeping the child and leaving the father. By the way, Neil, what are you planning to do about him? I thought about it. He schemed against me and even used it as conversation material. Now I'm so angry that I had to have a miscarriage surgery. I absolutely can't let this go so easily. I want to get back at him, whatever you do. Don't tell him, I said with a determined look at Chloe. I'm going to prepare a big surprise for him. About half a month later, Neil took the initiative to call. During this time, it was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth, without a single word of news, but I knew he was pressuring me, forcing me to compromise with this kind of cold violence. However, he didn't expect that I could endure even more, stubbornly dragging it out for half a month without contacting him. Annie, how are you? You haven't contacted me for half a month. He pretended to care on the phone while shifting the blame for the Cold War onto me. This series of actions was simply suffocating, and my tone was unconsciously harsh. Is there something you need? He clearly paused for a moment, then said, it was indeed my dad's fault before. He spoke too hastily. But my parents have had a hard time raising me, and I hope you can understand. I apologize to you on their behalf. Here we go again with the same old lines. His parents had a hard time raising him, as if everyone else just popped out of a rock and didn't need their parents to raise them. If you wanted to apologize, you could have done it long ago. Why wait until today? You must be at your limit, but I can't be too forceful, or the plan won't work. I'm going to set a big trap for him. I understand. I adjusted my tone. Neil seemed to hear a glimmer of hope. Annie, actually, you know me, I interrupted him. You don't need to say more. I understand. Your parents have lived through hard times for too long, so they feel insecure. They're doing this for your own good, and I can understand that. Neil was pleasantly surprised. Annie, I promise. You don't need to promise. I interrupted him again. How about this? We'll hold the wedding first without registering the marriage, and wait until the child is born to get the marriage certificate. That should put your parents at ease, right? It's nothing more than worrying that I'm after their family's wealth. Although it's a drop in the bucket compared to my family's assets, they think it's an astronomical sum. By saying this, I directly put an end to their concerns. Even if I were coveting their family's wealth, wouldn't having a child give them a weakness to exploit? Are you afraid I'll divorce and run away? Good, good. Neil was so excited he could hardly speak. Annie, I never expected you to be so understanding. Sure enough. I hit the nail on the head. Let's have the wedding in your hometown first, and then we can have a small celebration in Beijing afterward. Things are expensive in Beijing, so we won't make it too extravagant. We'll save some money, then we can have your parents come to Beijing for a visit. I deliberately emphasized the words small office to reinforce the impression in his mind that my family's financial situation is average. Annie, Neil sobbed on the other end of the phone. Though I knew it was all an act, I really didn't expect you to be so considerate and sensible. It was my fault before for not putting myself in your shoes. I was wrong. Marrying you is truly a blessing I must have earned in my past life. Annie, I will treat you well for the rest of my life. I promise. Better not. Would you want that kind of blessing if it were offered to you? I can't be bothered to listen to his nonsense. You arrange the time. It needs to be quick, otherwise it'll be more inconvenient when the child gets bigger. We can prepare the things back in our hometown. It's cheaper there too. I don't want to spend another penny, and my stomach hasn't completely gone down yet, so we need to hurry. We can still find a way to hide it for now, but if it gets too far along, it'll be easy to give it away. I said to be quick, but I didn't expect Neil to be in such a rush. The date is set for the beginning of next month, which means we have to go back to his hometown ahead of time at the end of this month to make arrangements. Just to be safe, Chloe took time off to go with me. On the very day we arrived, we witnessed the disgusting and shameless behavior in their village. Who knows which distant relative it was? They came over and asked Chloe if she was here to be a bridesmaid. Chloe didn't even have time to answer before that person reached out to touch her. I quickly stepped forward with my belly out, blocking that person's action. The aunts and relatives nearby started cursing, looking so provocative. Isn't it just to get touched as a bridesmaid? Why pretend to be some chaste and virtuous woman? Exactly, on a wedding day like this, she could play around in bed even wilder than the bride. Another chimed in. Scared. What kind of people are these? I was so angry that my teeth chattered, and I wanted to leave immediately, regardless of revenge or plans. Instead, Chloe was a bit calmer, whispering in my ear, "Don't get angry, a little impatience spoils great plans. They're just all talk, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. I feel a bit guilty. It's all my fault for not seeing through people clearly, and I even made you come here to suffer with me. No. What's our relationship? How could I just watch my good friend jump into a fire pit? Besides, this is victim blaming. Shouldn't it be the villains who need to reflect?" Chloe clenched her fist. "Looks like I need to find a punching bag to show off my boxing skills." Chloe shared the snacks she brought with a few children in the village. They actually took her to gather materials and made 2 large punching bags. Chloe secured the sandbag at the door of my room and started throwing punches at it with a bang, bang, bang sound, leaving the door open. After a few rounds of punching back and forth, her intimidating aura was quite convincing. perhaps because of the sandbag, no one came to cause trouble all the way until the wedding day. Aside from a few relatives who tried to give me a hard time, the whole process went relatively smoothly. But on the wedding day, I still ran into some gossipy relatives. After toasting, I was completely exhausted and starving from not eating all day, so I decided to grab a seat at any table to eat something. Just as Chloe and I sat down, I noticed the woman across from us staring at me for a long time with an unfriendly look. Chloe signaled for me to eat first while she went to ask around. I only found out after she returned that the woman was originally raised in their family, considered a child bride, a few years older than Neil, and introduced to outsiders as a cousin. Later, when Neil went away for school, his family looked down on this child bride and hastily married her off to someone else. Looking back now, though the gentleman had no intention, the lady certainly had feelings. Even though she's married with children now, that hostile glare of hers could bore a hole right through my face. Chloe whispered in my ear, "You've snatched away someone's precious treasure." I burst out laughing, "Then I'll give it back to her." The woman across from me shot me a glare. Chloe glanced at the dishes on the table and figured only that plate of shrimp was somewhat reliable. She simply brought it right in front of me, peeling them one by one to feed me. The woman with her child sat across from us, already far from that plate of shrimp to begin with. Now that Chloe had moved it right in front of me, she was filled with resentment. But today is my and Neil's wedding. I can't just lose my temper at the bride in front of everyone. Chloe has always been carefree, she doesn't care about the eyes around her. Anyway, after today, I won't have any connection with these people. The woman got anxious. She had only peeled a few for the child earlier and hadn't had any herself yet. As the plate of shrimp was almost all peeled, Chloe showed no intention of stopping. The woman finally spoke up. "Neil's wife, why aren't you eating the shrimp shells? They say they're full of calcium. It's a waste not to eat them." Chloe let out a scoff upon hearing this and muttered under her breath, "Does she even know about calcium?" I held back my laughter and didn't say a word. Chloe glanced up at the woman. "Right?" The woman quickly chimed in. "Yes, indeed." Chloe ignored her and finished peeling the entire bowl of shrimp. A full bowl of shrimp meat was placed in front of me, and all the shells were piled onto a plate, forming a small hill. Chloe pushed the shrimp shells in front of the woman. "Here, full of calcium. Are you going to eat it or let the child eat it?" The woman didn't expect Chloe to be so direct, and flushed with anger. "You," Chloe persisted relentlessly, pretending to be innocent. "What do you mean you? Didn't you say it's all calcium and it'd be a waste not to eat it? Then you eat it all." The woman's temper flared up instantly. "What do you mean?" Chloe still looked puzzled. "What do you mean? Didn't you want to eat calcium? I gave you all the calcium." Their conversation wasn't loud, but it still drew attention from those around them. Neil also came over upon hearing the noise, seeing me sitting there eating shrimp without saying a word. And noticing his so-called cousin blushing, I instantly felt disgusted. Neil, the woman, upon seeing Neil approach, instantly put on an act of being wronged. I exchanged a glance with Neil. "Chloe is my friend." Even though she was standing up for me, I didn't say a word. "Are you really going to blame me?" Neil frowned. "Cousin, today is my big day. Whatever it is, let's talk about it after it's over." Upon hearing this, the woman's eyes immediately reddened. Neil pretended not to see and walked away with his wine glass. Chloe glanced at her with a cold smile and ignored her. "Look at the kind of people they are. Losing the child is actually a good thing. Even heaven is helping you." I shook my head helplessly, not taking it to heart at all. I'm not really going to marry Neil. So she's just jealous for nothing. I eat slowly. Chloe finished eating and went for a walk, then came back and gave me some juicy gossip. "Guess where the 2 bridesmaids assigned to you went?" "Where did they go?" I had no idea there was still something for the bridesmaids to do after the wedding. Chloe made a disgusted face and whispered in my ear, "You would never guess what they're doing." I was wondering where they found such beautiful bridesmaids, but it turns out there's something going on here. "What do you mean?" I didn't quite understand. Chloe sneered. "They call them bridesmaids, but they've all ended up in bed with the groom, a bunch of old men lining up for their turn. It's as disgusting as it gets." I forced an awkward smile. Harsh lands breed unruly people. That saying couldn't be more true, of course. Along with unruly people, there are also backward customs. Right after the wedding, I used the excuse of not acclimating to leave early with Chloe. I couldn't stand staying in this disgusting place for another minute. Neil asked Chloe to take care of me, saying he'd come find me once he was done. On the surface, I pretended to be reluctant, but what I really thought was, "Bye-bye now, goodbye, and never see you again." We held the wedding in the village, so everyone would know Neil was married. Once I disappear, I wonder how he'll handle the aftermath. But none of that matters anymore. After returning home, I immediately terminated my rental lease and moved in with Chloe. I also contacted my parents, who are far away in Beijing, and told them I plan to quit my current job and start my own business. Actually, I've wanted to start my own business for a long time. My parents have always supported me, and I'm confident I can do it well. Back then, it was only because Neil preferred stability that I gave up on the idea and settled for a steady job. Now it seems that everything can betray you. But your career won't. Women should still focus on their own careers. No sooner said than done. I submitted my resignation to the company and started preparing the materials needed for starting a business. Due to the handover process, I still have to stay at the original company for a full month before officially leaving. I looked down at my stomach, which had gradually begun to flatten. After the surgery, I didn't hand over the deceased fetus to the hospital for disposal. Instead, I found a professional company to process its tiny remains, placing it in a pot with a seed to sprout and grow together. Now the seed has sprouted, and I feel that although that child and I were not destined to be together, it remains by my side in another form. Half a month later, Neil came back from his hometown to see me and asked when we would go to Beijing to hold the wedding. Moreover, he had already communicated with his parents, and they were ready to set off for Beijing for a trip at any time. I smiled and sent him a message. Let's break up. I thought he would excitedly question me, but it took him a long time to reply with just, I sneered inwardly, thinking, on the brink of death, and he still thinks I'm just throwing a tantrum that will cool off with time. I simply blocked him and didn't reply. By evening, his calls were blowing up my phone. Annie, what are you doing? You're already married. Why are you playing the blocking game? Married? I never got a marriage certificate with you. Don't call me again. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Annie, are you crazy? He started cursing on the other end of the phone. I didn't want to listen and pressed the hang-up button. He called again. Annie, what kind of tantrum are you throwing? If you can talk properly, we'll continue. If not, I'm hanging up. Neil immediately started cursing. Fuck your mother. Annie, are you out of your mind? Hang up again. After going back and forth several times, Neil was finally able to speak properly. I asked, what exactly do you want? Neil was fuming with anger. Remember the prenuptial agreement you mentioned earlier? I disagree. I've changed my mind. Disagree. Regret it. Neil's voice suddenly rose several octaves. What the hell do you mean you regret it? We're already married. We already have a child. What do you want to do about it? Married? You say we're married. So be it. My emotions flared up again at his words. If you think you can use a child to tie a woman down, I'll go get an abortion tomorrow. Go ahead. He spat into the phone. Better if both mother and child die. Beep beep beep. I already knew what kind of person he was, but hearing those words still made my heart ache terribly. Given his personality, he never gives up until he achieves his goal. I'm bracing myself for a fierce battle. 24 hours have passed, and there's still no movement. I find it a bit strange. Has he changed his approach this time? Before I could sort out my thoughts, news of his car accident arrived. Yesterday he hung up on me and went to meet his old flame. The woman had just gotten her driver's license. While driving, she was kissing Neil, and accidentally had a close call with a large truck. By the time I arrived at the hospital, Neil, who was in the passenger seat, had already passed away despite rescue efforts. The woman only suffered minor scratches and was fine. Man proposes, God disposes. I never would have imagined such a dramatic turn of events. All thoughts of revenge, all plans, they all became useless. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. The woman knelt before me with a thud. I quickly took a step back. No, I'm not your sister-in-law. Neil's affairs I no longer wish to be involved in. The doctor thought I was Neil's wife and asked me to come handle the paperwork. I shook my head and told him I was just an ex-girlfriend, and if he needed contact information for family members, I could provide it. After returning home, I told Neil's death news to Chloe. Chloe said angrily, evil begets evil. He actually cursed you to die with your unborn child. Heaven does have eyes. Then she comforted me. Don't be too sad. Yeah, I nodded, feeling somewhat emotional after all these years of shared feelings, but thinking about how he deceived and schemed against me, those emotions were quickly overshadowed. Neil's parents soon came to me. They wailed and accused me of causing their son's death, insisting I must give birth to their grandson and hand him over to them, or they wouldn't let me off. Grandson? Where did this grandson come from? Oh, right, they still don't know the baby had already stopped developing. Thinking I'm still pregnant. How ridiculous. Want a child? Alright. I called Chloe to go to the market, bought 5 kilograms of rotten pork, packed it in a foam box, and had it delivered to their home via a flash delivery service. According to the delivery guy, Neil's parents happened to be at the entrance of the community. After opening the package, they immediately threw themselves on the ground and threw a tantrum, almost not letting him leave, saying they would sue me in court and demand blood for blood. I held back my laughter and tipped the delivery guy a sum of money after hearing this, because dealing with this family is truly unfortunate. I thought the matter was over, but not long after, Neil's parents really hired a lawyer and decided to sue me in court. In their words, I had caused their son's death and killed their grandson, so I must pay with my life. The lawyer was also a young man who wanted to earn the legal fees but felt the chances of winning the case were slim, so he came to negotiate with me. I don't want to see them, so I've asked an agent to represent me. The agent told me that the lawyer suggested I compensate them appropriately. In other words, spend some money to resolve the matter and avoid trouble. After all, peace of mind comes with letting go of wealth, and it would be troublesome if it actually goes to court. Neil, how much money did you trick me out of under the pretense of saving for marriage, still trying to scheme against me even after death? Compensation. Okay, just wait. I kept using the delay tactic, stalling again and again. After a long time, Neil's father's lawyer came to see me again. Ms. Annie, since you are Neil's legal wife, they are practically your parents-in-law, it's best not to delay the compensation payment. Legal wife, I was completely stunned after hearing this. No way. This young lawyer is way too careless. Legal wife, are you joking with me? I opened my eyes wide and looked at him. Neil and I never even got a marriage certificate. How could I be considered a legal wife? Now it was his turn to be dumbfounded. What, you never registered your marriage, right? They looked at me, then at my agent, as if they wanted to slap themselves right then and there. It turned out that after Neil's parents received the rotten meat I sent them, they thought I had aborted the fetus. The very next day, they pulled strings to find a lawyer to sue me, but they didn't want to spend a lot of money and were practically hoping to get a free lawyer to come to their door. That young lawyer didn't have much practical experience, but he was cheap and had plenty of free time. Neil's parents hired him to handle the lawsuit. The story was spun so fantastically, claiming how I had caused the death of their son, then their grandson, and even delivered the bodies right to their doorstep. It was more dramatic than a top-tier screenwriter could ever concoct. The lawyer listened with great sympathy, believing that I was indeed in the wrong morally, but legally, it might not necessarily result in a loss for me, so he advised Neil's parents to talk with me first, preferably to compensate them with a sum of money, since the dead cannot be brought back to life. Neil's parents thought it over and decided that money was the most important thing, so they fully entrusted the matter to the lawyer. But then, we did have a wedding ceremony, but we never actually registered our marriage. In the older generation's view, holding a wedding ceremony is equivalent to being married. They don't care about registration or not. The lawyer didn't think too much about it and assumed that Neil and I had already registered and were legally married. Only when I said we didn't have a certificate did he realize he had jumped to conclusions. What Neil's parents meant by marriage was just the wedding ceremony. This was a huge stain on his career as a lawyer. He refused to continue helping Neil's parents with the lawsuit. Neil, his father, was so anxious he nearly jumped out of his skin. Just when they were about to seal the deal, the lawyer suddenly backed out. What do you mean? Was he bribed by me? Did they think we were easy to push around? Neil, his father, inquired about the law firm where that lawyer worked. He went to confront him in person, asking why he had quit and whether I had bribed him. The lawyer was also furious, filled with resentment. How could you screw someone over like this? You didn't mention such crucial information as not having a marriage certificate, just a bunch of nonsense and emotional outbursts. But you left out the decisive details. Neil, his father, used to throwing his weight around, couldn't stand being talked back to by a young man and immediately lost his temper. I don't care about marriage certificates or not. In the village, once the wedding is held, that means you're married. Now you're backing out at the last minute. That's just taking money without delivering. Either continue with the lawsuit or refund the money, or face the consequences. Neil, his father, dropped the threat, slammed the door, and left. Neil, after returning home, his father grew angrier the more he thought about it. He gathered a group of elders and went to the law firm to demand an explanation. As the saying goes, many hands make light work. With so many people here today, we must come up with a solution. Either find someone else to represent them in court for free, or their law firm will have to face the consequences. The people at the law firm exchanged uneasy glances. Taking the case to court was out of the question. Who would be foolish enough to do something that would only backfire on them? Not to mention free, it's simply wishful thinking. The head of the law firm served each elder a cup of tea and patiently explained the law to them. He recited the relevant legal provisions over and over again. Neil, his father, wouldn't listen and just kept asking whether they would do it or not. The person in charge couldn't directly refuse, so they tactfully reiterated the legal provisions once again. Neil, his father, got annoyed and asked again, "Can we do it or not?" The person in charge still recited the provisions. The seasoned veterans were completely furious. This was just a greenhorn kid, and no one wanted to listen to him preaching here. The legal education couldn't proceed, and the old folks got angry. Finally, they asked, "Do it or not? How to do it? It can't be done. We can only continue to persuade." The person in charge patiently explained why this job couldn't be taken on. The whole set of terms was tossed back and forth, the words twisted and turned, but in the end, they just couldn't take on the job. By the end of it, Neil's father had pretty much figured it out. The person in charge was just playing Tai Chi, stubbornly refusing to proceed any further. The old men were furious, and following the way things were handled in their day, they stood up and smashed the law firm to pieces. The computer is broken, the screen is shattered. And the person in charge got hurt too. Now the old folks were finally satisfied, patted their butts, and left. What happened next? My curiosity was piqued, and I pressed on, asking Chloe. They should pay for it. Chloe smiled faintly and mysteriously, winking. That's a must. Have you forgotten what my friends do for a living? They're lawyers, the ones who know the law best. They'll definitely make Neil's dad regret his actions. My curiosity was instantly piqued. What are they planning to do? Chloe patted me. Don't rush. My friend told me to wait 3 months. You should take this time to sort out your feelings, forget that awful situation, and start a new life. I nodded. In the following days, I recovered my health and shifted my focus to my career. Although the business was just getting started, I believed things would get better and better, watching the small potted plant on the desk grow taller and sprout. I silently prayed in my heart. 3 months later, Chloe brought me the latest news. The lawyers at the law firm drafted a letter themselves and sued Neil's dad and that whole group. Actually, that day when the old men smashed up the law firm, they were a bit scared inside too. They waited anxiously for a few days and found that nothing happened. Feeling somewhat smug, they were relieved to have run into a bunch of cowards who didn't dare retaliate, still the big shots they always were. Who would have thought that 100 days later, these kids would actually sue them? As soon as they heard it had gone to court, those uncles who followed Neil's dad were also scared. I jumped out of bed, got dressed in a flash, called a car, and headed straight to his house. Neil's dad was also stunned. Why not sue him earlier or later, but wait until 3 months later to sue him? Because it takes 100 days to heal from a broken bone. Chloe recounted her friend's words. The head of the law firm has to rest in bed for 3 months to recover. During the recovery period, he couldn't work and had to wait until he was fully recovered to sue him. Is it really that serious? I asked with some concern. If so, then Neil's dad was way too harsh. No. It's just a superficial wound. Chloe's eyes lit up. Never mind how he managed to get a 3-month internal injury certificate, he just got it. The law firm's team, after the old men's rampage. The first thing they did was to compile the complete surveillance and audio recordings from the office. The person in charge filed a lawsuit around the 101st day, submitting all the evidence. Neil, his father, was furious, believing the law firm was involved in a joint scam, and might even be in cahoots with me. On the day of the court hearing, Neil openly roared in the courtroom, almost physically attacking the plaintiff. The judge, considering his advanced age and the shock of losing his son, did not allow him to enter, but awarded him a large sum of compensation. Neil's mother cried and made a scene at the courthouse entrance, but was warned that if she continued, she would be handed over to the public security authorities for disrupting court proceedings, with consequences ranging from a reprimand to fines or detention. Only then did Neil's mother stop her unruly behavior. The matter was finally settled. And I began a whole new life. Chloe often says to me, it's like having a dream, whether good or bad. I've already woken up, and the contents of the dream will gradually fade from my memory. I nod, looking at the small potted plant on the table, believing that the beauty from the dream will one day meet me again. The end. Story 2. After 5 years of amnesia, I suddenly regained my memory and also got in touch with my biological parents in City C. I rushed straight to the small study, eager to share the good news with my husband immediately, but I overheard my mother-in-law's impatient questioning from inside the study. Why haven't you divorced Sandra yet? Rex soothed his mother, whispering softly, no need for a divorce, we were never actually married. My mother-in-law was stunned, and so was I. He chuckled softly and said, the marriage certificate I got with her back then was fake. It didn't even have an official seal. Overjoyed, my mother-in-law urged, then why don't you hurry up and marry Rachel and go with her to City C? The transfer order has come through, Rex said. I applied quietly and have already gotten the marriage certificate with Rachel. I'll be taking her north with me soon, mother-in-law said happily. All right. Then coldly added that she would drive me back to the countryside tomorrow. Rex hesitated and whispered, Mom, she can earn money to support the family and take care of the household, and you. Driving her away is worse than just wearing her down for a lifetime. I felt as if struck by lightning, as if plunged into an ice cellar, my hands and feet trembling. Late at night, Rex tiptoed back into the room. I pretended to be fast asleep. He tucked me in, gently holding me as I fell asleep. In the same intimate way as usual, the quilt was warm and cozy, but I only felt a chill all over my body. The next morning, I rushed to the post office to queue up for a phone call. The moment that familiar voice, both loving and authoritative, echoed in my memory, I choked up and blurted out, "Dad." The house erupted into chaos. One by one, my relatives wept with joy, scrambling to grab the phone and talk to me. I kept it brief, explaining how I had fallen off a cliff back then, injured my head, and was fortunately rescued by a farmer downstream, only regaining my memory unexpectedly yesterday. The old father said he would personally come south to pick me up, and asked me to wait at the agreed location in 5 days to get in the car. I replied, okay. He also asked with concern if I had a sweetheart or a close friend whom I could bring home together. Thinking of last night's words, my heart felt as if pierced by a knife. No, I'm going back alone. After making the call, I rushed to work at the military factory. A dense crowd of bicycles surged toward the factory gate, but I was the only one who had to rely on my own 2 legs to run. As a temporary worker, my salary was only 25 yuan, and my mother-in-law demanded that I hand it all over. I couldn't save any money to buy a bicycle, so I had to rely on my legs to commute every day. At that moment, the sound of a car horn came from behind. The 28-inch bar bicycles scattered to make way, and I was squeezed into a corner. A military vehicle drove smoothly forward. The handsome man in the driver's seat was smiling warmly. It was Rex. He held the steering wheel, glancing from time to time at Rachel in the passenger seat, his gaze as tender as water. Rachel dressed in a blue factory uniform, her long hair flowing gracefully, smiling sweetly and charmingly. Someone in the crowd exclaimed, "Oh, isn't that the factory belle Rachel? She's so beautiful. A toad shouldn't dream of eating swan meat. She's about to marry Rex." The military vehicle drove toward the administration building, leaving only a trail of exhaust. I coughed, ignoring the sweat on my forehead and my aching legs, and ran toward the tech department. A few colleagues who were chatting in a group were startled and quickly scattered, giving me strange looks. I greeted them as usual and buried myself in my work. After a while, Mr. Liam arrived. "Sandra, the study opportunity one mentioned to you the other day, it's gone." I asked in confusion. Wasn't it already confirmed? After the external training, I could have become a full-time employee. Mr. Liam explained helplessly. "The administration department's Rex gave your spot to Rachel. There weren't many openings this time. Wait for the next opportunity." I had waited a full 3 years for this chance to secure a permanent position. Unfortunately, still waiting in vain. Mr. Liam frowned and said, "These past couple of days, rumors have been spreading across departments that you shamelessly hooked up with Rex and Sandra. You really need to be more careful with your personal conduct." I'm at a loss for words. Rex warned me that since he works in an administrative position, he must keep things strictly professional and not disclose our relationship to others. It's been 3 years since we got married, and it still hasn't been made public. The marriage certificate I got was fake. Even if I took it out now, it wouldn't prove anything. My colleagues pointed fingers at me, even deliberately making sarcastic remarks in front of me. Some people act all proper on the surface, but who knew they'd seduce someone else's husband behind their back? They're about to get married, and yet you still shamelessly throw yourself at them. How disgraceful. I'm completely stunned, my heart aching with bitterness. Our family discipline is strict, and my parents have always been upright and principled. Even though I'm the most favored youngest child, I never dared to do anything that crossed the line. Rex deceived me, abandoned me after taking advantage, and even had the audacity to shift the blame, leaving me to bear such a disgraceful reputation. After work, I avoided my colleagues and had to take a longer way home. Rex stood under the large tree by the side door, glaring at me with displeasure. "What are you doing here? I warned you before. Outside, we pretend not to know each other. Get lost." My gaze was indifferent, fixed steadily on him. Was this still the man who had once vowed to treat me well for a lifetime? In just 3 years, everything has changed. Rex averted his gaze, still hung up on the quota. "Is it really that big a deal? You've already waited 2 or 3 years. What's another year or so? Rachel has a higher education level than you and has been at the factory longer. You can't even compare to her. Just wait for the next batch." I listened indifferently and asked, "What if I can't wait any longer?" Rex choked, his brows furrowing. "A country girl like you with no education should be grateful just to have a job. Be content and stop dreaming too much." I suppressed the pain in my heart. The study opportunity was something I earned through my work abilities. How could it be called a delusion? I pressed further. "What's the deal with all the rumors going around the factory lately?" Rex seemed to have been stepped on his tail, angrily retorting, "You're my wife. What's the big deal about bearing a little gossip? No matter what I do, it's for the future of our family. How can you be so short-sighted?" My heart ached to the point of numbness, and I no longer wanted to ask any more. Rex noticing my odd expression, he looked around warily. I'll take you home first. Suddenly, from not far away, Rachel's voice called out, Rex. Rex, startled, hurriedly strode forward to meet her. Rachel asked with a smile, have you been waiting long? Who are you just talking to? Rex turned sideways, blocking her inquisitive gaze. Someone irrelevant, just saying hello. The two walked away together, Rachel nestled beside him, not forgetting to turn her head and give me a meaningful smile. The disdain and provocation in her eyes were unmistakable. After having dinner in the cafeteria, I slowly made my way back. My mother-in-law glared at me and scolded. Where the hell have you been? You didn't cook, you didn't wash the clothes, and you didn't mop the floor. I'm sick, I lied, closing the door. My mother-in-law still wouldn't let me off, shouting from outside, you're so young, what could possibly be wrong? You're just a country girl. Who do you think you are to act so delicate? A little ache or pain? Just bear with it. Hurry up and go make dinner. I pretended not to hear, hiding in the room to pack my things. In the past, for the sake of our marriage, I endured all the hardships and grievances as much as I could. Now, there's no need anymore. After nightfall, Rex returned. He hurried in, not even glancing at the suitcase on the bed, and walked straight toward me. Sandra, colleagues from the office are here. Don't come out. Before I could react, the door was immediately shut and they left. I lowered my gaze and continued tidying up. After a while, I faintly heard the sound of conversation outside. The mother-in-law spoke with flattering enthusiasm, urging her son to make tea and specifically requesting the precious Da Hong Pao tea that the leader had previously gifted. Only such fine tea is worthy of a distinguished guest like Rachel. So it was Rachel who had arrived. I chuckled coldly and wanted to leave only to find the door locked shut. After a moment, the lock clicked, and the door was pushed open. Rachel stood outside the door, screaming in shock, "Ah, there's a thief." I was slightly stunned and instinctively stepped outside. Suddenly, my mother-in-law and Rex rushed over, both looking flustered. Slap, with a sharp sound, my mother-in-law suddenly slapped me across the face. Caught completely off guard, I fell to the ground, my face burning with pain. My mother-in-law yelled furiously, "Stealing what? Huh, how dare you defy me?" Rex looked at me anxiously, then immediately stepped between me and Rachel, shielding her protectively. "Don't be afraid, she's not a thief." Rachel hid in his arms, seemingly still shaken. "Then who is she? Why is she in your house?" Rex averted his gaze. I stared at him coldly. Quickly, he averted his gaze and gently comforted Rachel. "She's our family's maid. She works at the factory during the day and does chores at our house in the evening. She's from the countryside, rough around the edges, don't take her seriously." My mother-in-law quickly chimed in, Yes. A lowborn from the countryside, just here to do odd jobs for our family." Rachel held Rex's arm, giving me a meaningful smile. "So that's it, you scared me just now." The mockery and teasing in her eyes were unmistakably clear. I got up, my mother-in-law grabbed me and shoved me harshly into the room. "Rex," I called out deliberately. The old lady was terrified, her rough hands desperately covering my mouth. Rex grew anxious inwardly and hurriedly coaxed Rachel to leave. The old lady fumed with rage. "Are you trying to get Rex killed? Dare to say one more word, and I'll send you back to the countryside immediately." Rachel comes from a wealthy and influential family that can help my son get ahead, compared to her. "What are you? What does your family have? A rundown farming household is worthless." Late at night, Rex returned. He applied a warm towel to my face and coaxed, "Don't be angry, my mom just wants what's best for me." I coldly pushed his hand away and asked, "What exactly is going on between you and Rachel?" His eyes flickered slightly as he explained that he was about to be transferred to City C and needed Rachel's help, so he had to get closer to her for the time being. She comes from a good family background and is even a distant relative of the City C's Stamford family, which would greatly benefit my future. I smiled mockingly, not bothering to expose him. "A distant relative? Are you sure?" Rex said with an unhappy and annoyed expression. "If you can't help me, then at least don't hold me back. Only when I succeed can I give you a happier life. I'm doing this for you. So, he's marrying another woman for my sake." I couldn't be bothered to respond and turned to leave. The next afternoon, I went to the HR department to resign. The staff member stared at me mockingly, their eyes filled with disdain. "Rex has fired you." I was shocked. "Fired? When did this happen?" She waved her hand dismissively. "The dismissal notice was sent to all departments this morning. Get out. I can't stand people like you. Home-wrecking tramp." I gritted my teeth and decided to go find Rex. Unexpectedly, I was intercepted halfway by Rachel and her crew. Click-clack, rotten vegetable leaves and rotten eggs were thrown at me fiercely, falling like rain. Rachel walked toward me step by step, laughing arrogantly. "I and Rex have already registered our marriage, and we're holding our wedding the day after tomorrow. Why are you pestering him all day?" Aren't you ashamed? Have you no dignity? I roared. We were already 3 years ago. Shut up. Rex hurried over, stopping me with a shout. His eyes filled with warning. The people around pointed and whispered about me, each one filled with indignation. Flirting with someone else's husband is disgraceful and immoral. Shameless. Have you no dignity? Rachel complained indignantly, late at night. She even went to Rex's house and shamelessly refused to leave. The people around grew even more furious, everyone calling for her to be driven out. Rotten vegetable leaves, stones, and paper balls were thrown chaotically. I couldn't dodge them. Sharp stones cut wounds on my forehead and face, blood streaming down, and I fell to the ground in a wretched state. Rachel pursed her lips and snickered, fanning her nose in disgust. I heard that those who misbehave and disrupt military marriages should be arrested and thrown in jail. I glared fiercely at Rex. He frowned deeply, his eyes darting away. Forget it. Lock her up for a few days. I believe she'll repent. I was so frightened that my face turned deathly pale. Rex ignored my struggles, grabbed my arm roughly, and threw me into the confinement room. The cramped, dim, dilapidated room was chilly, with rats and insects scurrying and darting about freely from time to time. Too panicked to be afraid, I hurriedly hid the items from my pocket inside my clothes. I don't know how long I was locked in there when suddenly the door opened. Rex squeezed in, lowering his voice. Stay put here for 3 or 4 days. When I come to pick you up, I'll make it up to you properly. I spat at him. I tried to get up, but he pushed me back down. Rex spoke impatiently, threatening, if you dare disobey, I'll break your legs and dump you back in the countryside. You won't be allowed back in the city. Then the door was closed and locked, in the middle of the night. I huddled in a corner, shivering from the cold. Suddenly, the door opened again. With a splash, a large bucket of cold water was poured over me. The water in winter is bone-chillingly cold. Soaked to the bone, I was on the verge of fainting from the cold, weakly calling for help. The person outside the door was cursing and grumbling. You shameless woman, how dare you steal the factory beauty's man? Who do you think you are? You deserve it. After passing out from the cold, my whole body felt feverish, full of hatred and grievances. I relied on my tenacious willpower time and again to pull through with great difficulty, in a dazed state. Someone opened the door. Mr. Liam sighed with pity, helped me up, and fed me a bowl of rice soup. You, such a diligent and ambitious girl, how could you do such a foolish thing? My hands trembling, I took the envelope out from my chest. Please hand it in for me, Mr. Liam paused briefly, took it, and quickly left. She only closed the door, deliberately leaving it unlocked. I stumbled out of the confinement room, struggling to adjust to the light outside, only to realize it had been 3 days. Passing workers looked at me coldly, their eyes full of schadenfreude. Serves you right. I didn't dare to linger, forcing myself to run toward the post office, until I saw the low-key military vehicle. I cried out in pleasant surprise, Dad. My voice was hoarse and weak, but the old father in the car seemed to sense it instinctively. Hurriedly getting out of the car, I wanted to step forward, but the days of torment had left me extremely weak. My vision went black, and I fainted. A moment later, I was given some sugar water and slowly opened my eyes. My old father supported me, his face full of heartache and pity. Sandra, how did you end up in such a wretched state? I was about to reply when suddenly several people surged over, surrounding me completely. The leader was Rex's subordinate. He arrogantly warned, Rex said you are not allowed to go to his house. Go back to your hometown immediately. Today is his and comrade Rachel's big day. If you dare to ruin it, you'll be punished with continued confinement. After delivering the threat, the other party left triumphantly. The old father was shocked, his hands trembling uncontrollably. Continue. Who dares to put you in confinement? Who? I replied, Rex. Then, I told him everything that had happened over the past 3 years. The old father's face turned ashen upon hearing this. Let's go. I'll accompany you to demand justice. At this moment, the Sampson family was decorated with lanterns and colorful banners, with the big red double happiness character hung high. Guests gathered around the newlyweds, showering them with both flowers and candies. Rex was in high spirits, the large red flower on his chest particularly vibrant. Rachel in a red dress, shyly nestled by his side. The mother-in-law couldn't stop smiling, clapping and cheering incessantly. A high-ranking military vehicle was parked at the entrance, drawing everyone's curious gazes. Oh, which high-ranking official is here? That's a car from City C. Rex beamed with joy and excitedly hugged Rachel. Seems like a senior leader from City C. Rachel, you really know how to make me proud. Rachel looked on in surprise and confusion, and upon hearing this, could only offer an awkward smile. The guard opened the door respectfully and saluted. The elderly father stepped out of the car. The guests, all smiling and flattering, crowded around the newlyweds as they approached. Unexpectedly, The elderly father ignored them and reached out to help me out of the car. Rex's face instantly turned ashen when he saw me. Immediately, his eyes widened with anxiety as he stared at me. "What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you to go back to your hometown? Now get out," even though he lowered his voice. Many people around still heard him. Sandra Comrade was supposed to be confined, wasn't she? How dare she show up? She's utterly shameless. Rachel glared at me disdainfully and sneered, still not giving up, like a lingering ghost that just won't leave. Then, she shrieked, "Everyone, look. This country bumpkin still has the nerve to try and seduce my lover, what a toad." Many of the onlookers laughed, their expressions filled with thick sarcasm and disdain. My mother-in-law glared at me fiercely, grinding her teeth in anger. "You lowlife, what are you doing here? Today is a joyous occasion. If you dare cause trouble, I'll beat you to death." My father-in-law listened silently, his face dark and grim. I showed no fear in my eyes, raised my chin, and stepped forward. Rex's eyes flickered, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. I sneered. Was he finally afraid? A pity it was far too late. I raised my voice and asked, "Rex, on the 3rd day of the 7th lunar month 3 years ago, outside the ancestral hall of W village in the countryside, in front of dozens of villagers, you and I were married in a traditional ceremony. Tell me, is this true or not?" Everyone was stunned by these words. Rex's face turned pale and then flushed. Not daring to answer at all, I continued to raise my voice. At that time, Village Chief Scott was our witness. Comrade Tim from the educated youth team officiated our simple wedding, and even wrote a blessing for us. "In heaven, we shall be 2 birds flying together. On earth, 2 trees with branches intertwined." The crowd erupted in an uproar. Rex did not dare to respond, his face ashen, his gaze toward me filled with resentment and dissatisfaction. "Stop talking, get out. Or don't blame me for being ruthless," I sneered. "Haven't you been ruthless enough? You abandoned me after taking advantage of me, then turned around and married another woman. Afraid the truth would come out, you not only fired me from the military factory without permission but also had me confined. You threatened me, warned me, and even had people pour cold water on me. For 3 days and 4 nights, not a drop of water or a grain of rice. You tortured me to the brink of death. Wasn't that ruthless enough?" Rex averted his gaze, still not daring to respond. The onlookers wore varied expressions, none daring to speak up again. Rachel grew impatient and tugged at his arm. "Just drive her away already. You never married her, tell everyone the truth." My mother-in-law was secretly anxious and reached out to grab me. "No, that's not true." I was prepared and shoved her away fiercely. "I've been working at the military factory for almost 3 years, and every month my wages were taken by my mother-in-law. If you don't believe me, you can go inside and search for my pay stubs. The neighbors here have seen me running to and from work every day, watched me wash clothes, hang laundry, sweep the floor, cook, and do all the housework. They can all testify for me." A neighbor lady who was watching from nearby poked her head out and shouted, "Your mother-in-law said you got divorced and went back to your parents' home in the countryside." Everyone was wondering how Rex got married again right after the divorce. The crowd erupted in an uproar once more. Rachel was frantic, glaring at the silent Rex. "Wait, everyone, listen to me. Sandra is not Rex's wife at all. Their marriage certificate is fake, without an official seal. They just bowed in a ceremony. It doesn't count at all. Sandra is just a maid hired by his family to do housework." The mother-in-law quickly chimed in. Yes, it doesn't count. She was just tricked by my son into doing the housework." The onlooking neighbors sighed in sympathy, and some even cursed out loud. How wicked. How could they do such a thing? Rex's face turned pale and then flushed red. I asked coldly, "Rex, so you admit that 3 years ago, when we held the wedding ceremony, the marriage certificate you tricked me into getting was fake, right?" All eyes in the room were fixed on him, some mocking, some scornful, some disdainful. Rex knew he couldn't hide it any longer and gave me an icy look that said, "You brought this on yourself. So what if it is? The certificate I got with you is fake. Our marriage doesn't count. You're not even my wife." Rachel affectionately wrapped her arm around his, proudly raising her chin. "Rex and I obtained a genuine marriage certificate. Everyone present here today is a witness. Ours is the legally recognized, indisputably real marriage." The crowd reacted with varied expressions, but no one dared to echo her words. No one had expected the situation to take such an unexpected turn. It turns out he deliberately used a fake certificate to marry her. Yet he flatly denies it. In order to marry the new woman, he didn't hesitate to frame his original wife as the other woman, even going so far as to humiliate, beat, and lock her in a confinement room, nearly torturing her to death. "This is just too cruel and heartless." I sneered coldly. "Rex, you finally admit it. You've committed bigamy, abducted women, abused your authority to oppress women, harmed your former wife to marry a new one. Your intentions are malicious. Your conduct is improper. Shut up. Rex raised his hand, but it was swiftly caught by the old father. Even dressed in plain clothes, his high status was evident. His authoritative gaze swept around, and Rex soon dared not act recklessly. The old father said sternly, "You're the one who should shut up." Slap. I gave Rex a hard slap. I used all my strength, and he staggered from the blow, a palm print instantly appearing on his handsome face. But I still wasn't satisfied. He struggled in embarrassment. Making a move to fight back, the old father, battle-hardened, swiftly executed a capture. Sweeping his foot with lightning speed, Rex immediately knelt before me, unable to move. Rachel and my mother-in-law, seeing this, rushed forward to attack me. "Step back," the guard interposed, effortlessly blocking them away. Rex felt both ashamed and angry, wanting to fight back, but was unable to resist due to his father's authority and formidable strength. "Who are you, sir? Sandra is cunning and sinister. Trying to ruin my future. Please do not be deceived or misled by her." The old father released his grip and pushed him away. "My daughter is not to be slandered by you." Rex was forced to kneel on the ground before me, struggling to get up but unable to. Looking utterly disheveled and embarrassed, he stared at me and my father in shock, unable to believe his eyes. "How is this possible? She's clearly a peasant girl from a remote, impoverished village." Suddenly, he noticed that my father and I shared nearly identical features, and his words trailed off mid-sentence. Rachel glanced at the military vehicle and sneered, "No need to put on airs. That old man must be an actor she hired. I'm from City C, and a fake license plate won't fool me." I asked coldly, "Which part of City C are you from? Do you really recognize this car?" "Of course," Rachel said arrogantly. "This car is probably fake. My family in City C isn't ordinary. We have deep connections with the renowned Stamford family." I looked at my father and asked, "Dad, do you know Rachel?" The old father thought for a moment and shook his head. Rachel glared at us disdainfully and hurriedly helped Rex up. "Causing a scene at the wedding and delaying Rex's and my auspicious moment. I'll make you and your father pay for this." Two guards immediately positioned themselves protectively beside me and the old father, their movements skilled and professional. "Stop, stop right now," someone shouted from behind. They saw Mr. Liam accompanied by the factory director and administrative leaders of the military factory rushing over in a panic, each one bowing respectfully and smiling apologetically. They gathered in front of the elderly father, nodding and bowing repeatedly. "Old chief, hello, hello, your esteemed presence. Why didn't you inform us in advance? We failed to welcome you properly. Our sincerest apologies." Rex and Rachel instantly turned pale. "Leader, who is he?" Unfortunately, no one paid them any attention. The administrative leader kept wiping cold sweat, bowing and apologizing to me repeatedly, solemnly promising to seek justice for me. "Ms. Sandra, please rest assured. Mr. Liam has already submitted all the evidence. The organization takes this very seriously and will definitely punish the comrade who made the mistake severely." Rex looked as if struck by lightning, staring at me in disbelief. "Ms. Sandra," Rachel stammered. Who exactly are you?" I sneered. "What? Don't recognize me? Weren't you just boasting about having connections with the City C Stamford family? Now that the real deal is right in front of you, you don't know anymore." Rachel panicked, quickly backing away. Rex stood dumbfounded, his eyes filled with regret. "Sandra, I ignored him." The onlookers all wore expressions of eager anticipation, ready to enjoy the drama. Rex abandoned his rural wife of humble origins and joyfully, ostentatiously married the factory beauty from City C, coveting her family's status and powerful connections. Little did he know, the factory beauty's powerful backer was actually his abandoned wife, an existence so far beyond his reach that he could never hope to climb that high. This twist, it's even more dramatic than the scenes on TV. Faced with the flattery and fawning from the leaders below, my father remained expressionless. After giving a few quiet instructions, he helped me into the car and we drove away. The leaders scrambled to see us off, bowing and waving incessantly. We nodded politely and closed the car door. The military vehicle slowly drove away. Suddenly, Rex broke free from Rachel's hand and desperately chased after it. Sandra, Sandra, the mother-in-law also chased from behind, pleading in a trembling voice. Sandra, wrong. Rex was just confused for a moment. Come back, please come back. You are my daughter-in-law. You are the one. I heard it as if I hadn't. Weakly closing my eyes to rest, my old father comforted me gently. That boy is blind in both eyes and heart. He doesn't deserve you, I smiled with relief. Fortunately, it was a fake marriage certificate, so we don't even need a divorce. 3 years of my youth, I'll just consider it as feeding a dog. My old father nodded with relief. Yes, what's past is past, we should look forward. Returning to my long unvisited home, I was warmly welcomed by my family. Reunited after a long separation, everyone was so moved that they shed tears, with the help of my family. I quickly settled in and returned to university to continue my studies. Back when I had the accident, my family searched for me for a long time but found nothing. My old father firmly believed that I was still alive, had my eldest brother apply for a leave of absence from school for me, and kept waiting for me to return home. Now that I'm back, everything is back on track. After regaining my memory, I recalled the professional knowledge I had learned, and with my past academic excellence, I didn't feel much pressure in my studies. In my spare time, I read books, practiced the piano, and actively participated in extracurricular activities, leading a colorful and fulfilling life. As winter gave way to spring, my health recovered remarkably well, my skin regained its fair complexion, and I was full of energy, glowing with vitality every day. My relatives were all delighted and often invited me to join them for outings and meals. One day, my eldest brother returned from a business trip to the south. He brought me a pile of local specialties and also shared a few pieces of news with me. I heard that Rex cried on the spot after his promotion was revoked. He said he's willing to accept any punishment from the organization, just begging me to reconcile with you and get back together. The dried persimmon in my mouth instantly lost its sweetness. I frowned. Who wants to reconcile with him? He's already married. My elder brother snorted disdainfully. Don't bother with that toad. I heard he filed for divorce from that Rachel. But Rachel refuses and keeps making a scene. I asked suspiciously. Rachel always brags about having connections with our family. Is there any truth to that? No, my eldest brother explained. She's just a distant niece of a minor aunt from a side branch of the family, barely related at all. I've already warned her not to use our family's name to cause trouble again. I doubt she'd dare, so that's how it is. I chuckled softly and snuggled lazily into my eldest brother's arms, continuing to eat. As the youngest in the family, I'm doted on by all my older brothers, who often compete to take me out for fun. Over the weekend, my third brother's secretary came with the driver to pick me up at the school gate. Miss, the minister has already made a reservation and is waiting for you in the private room. I replied okay, and was about to get into the luxury car. Sandra, an excited voice called out. I was slightly taken aback, only to see Rex standing uneasily not far away, his clothes still fairly neat, but his face dark and thin, looking quite haggard, with an unkempt beard, appearing rather disheveled. He forced an ingratiating smile and hesitated before speaking softly. It really is you. I almost didn't recognize you just now. I replied, this is the real me. Loving someone is like tending to a flower. When I married him, I worked at the factory during the day, did housework morning and night, and was constantly criticized and looked down upon by my mother-in-law. I was skinny and pale, and aside from my work uniform, I didn't have a single decent piece of clothing. Now, I carry myself with confidence, radiant and full-figured, dressed in the most fashionable floral dress, coming and going in the family's luxury car. Rex looked at me with deep regret and said softly, Sandra, I regret it so much. I wish I could slap myself. A day as husband and wife brings 100 days of affection. Can you forgive me for the sake of our past? I've already filed for divorce from Rachel. Really, I'm not lying. I shook my head gently. If he could heartlessly abandon me for the so-called future, he could just as easily abandon Rachel. This has nothing to do with Rachel at all. Even without Rachel, there would be other women, and he still hasn't realized that the problem lies with him. I had nothing left to say to him, so I turned and got into the luxury car. Rex caught up, but was stopped by the secretary. He kept shouting, begging me to forgive him and reconcile with him. I acted as if I hadn't heard. Suddenly, a haggard-looking woman ran over, slapped him several times, and snarled as she tore at him, looking like a madwoman. It was Rachel. Rex seemed very irritated and pushed her away abruptly. The two of them tussled into a tangled mess in full view of everyone. I didn't continue watching and turned away. Let's drive. Quickly. The car sped forward. I closed my eyes, feeling the gentle cool breeze, relaxed and comfortable. What's past should be left in the past. Even the most unpleasant episodes are ultimately left in the past. Looking ahead, there are only smooth roads and beautiful scenery.